Okay, so on to our second match here of our retrospective look at this the recent Vintage Challenge. So we're playing against a Tinker player this time. And we keep this hand. It's got a Mental Misstep and a Pyroblast. So obviously with the Volcanic Island is looking pretty good. It is a bit soft to things like Urza's Saga or... so opponent has Lavinia. I'd say like there are definitely things that can go wrong for us with this hand. And I think maybe a Tundra is what we wanted to draw there because it lets us preordain for action. So opponent casts a Manifold Key. And I have a Mental Misstep here which I'm going to choose not to use. Looking for a higher value target. So opponent then untaps his Mana Crypt, and of course he runs out a Time Vault. So I really should have misstepped the Manifold Key here. This would have just very likely won us the game, or at the very least put us in a much better position to be able to win the game instead of just losing it on turn one. I don't often play around opponent having Vault Key in their opening hand, but maybe I think, for future I'm meant to always just snap off the misstep. I'm not going to concede yet, so I go ahead and I Time Walk. Opponent Brainstorms. And we preordain twice, one getting misstepped, one finding a Force of Negation. And opponent will run out a Lavinia, which we will Pyroblast. And basically at this point, we're just going to hope that their Mana Crypts can kill them. Now, Urza's Saga obviously means that's not super likely. And Hull Breacher now actually means it doesn't matter what they do. They can race the Mana Crypt, no matter how many flips they happen to lose. So we can pack it up there. Game 2. How have we boarded? So we have boarded in a Singleton Shattering Spree, just as a bit of a catch-all. And we boarded in Pyroblast, Force of Negation, and Red Elemental Blast and Wasteland. And we've taken out 2 Baubles, 2 Swords to Plowshares. And we keep this hand. It's not amazing, but it has a Force of Will. Once again, we're just fetching straight away to play around Opposition Agent. And we're going to run out our Dreadhorde Arcanist, once again just waiting to draw any 1-drop. We do not want to fight over something like Swords to Plowshares. We kind of just want to fight over cards that matter, like this Lavinia here. And we need to force this because this stops us from forcing anything else from the rest of the game, but unfortunately opponent has the Flusterstorm. With the extra blue banner that they're holding up, it's almost a bit worrying that they've got like a Hull Breacher, but instead it's just a Time Walk. So they chip in, we draw a Wasteland to remove their Tundra, and we just kill the Urza Saga with the initial trigger on the stack. And we want to... So we preordain Scryed to the bottom twice, looking for another land, which we've found. And here, we want to deploy, I think, Third Path Iconoclast first. And the reason to do this is it's just going to make, kind of all our Swords to Plowshares, everything like that, considerably better for the rest of the game. It's also going to help stonewall that Urza's Saga, so long as opponent doesn't just go get Manifold Key for a suitably large construct. So opponent's going after our lands. We managed to draw another, and we want a treasure cruise here now. Leaving... Okay, so we've left the Swords to Plowshares, which makes... Does it make sense? Maybe the Preordain was a better leave. We've got to strip mine a little bit too late. So I guess the Swords is to help clean up construct tokens. So 2 constructs isn't really a problem for us in general. Put our Lurrus in hand. And double block a construct. Okay. So we lead on Expressive Iteration here. And we get a little bit greedy by going to Preordain. And we want to Pyroblast here. And opponent's got the misstep. So this is a little bit of a problem for us now. Because now we're going to need a way to kind of clean up. Having said that, we can now actually block the constructs with our third path iconoclasts. So we're going to deploy the iconoclast. And remove the constructs. And this is a little bit of us finally turning the corner. So we really want to draw something like an Arcanist now. Which we promptly managed to do. And so our first thing that we need to do here needs to be Pyroblasting the Hull Breacher. So actually the first thing we were meant to do here was actually strip mine the Tundra. And the reason to strip mine the Tundra is to stop our opponent from being able to cast a Swords to Plowshares on our Arcanist. So if we did that, we would have been able to hold up force. Instead, opponent decides he wants to trade with a Hull Breacher, and we'll just redeploy, or sorry, he wants to kill it with a Hull Breacher, and we'll redeploy our Arcanist. This is another time where I was meant to strip mine, because opponent now spell pierces. But we do get paid off because there's an Urza's Saga now. And we'll go ahead and Swords the Hull Breacher. We can hold up Pyroblast for anything else that's going to go wrong for us and put a really fast clock on the opponent. I think this is lethal next turn. So that's game 2. So on to game 3. I don't think we change our board plan at all for this. We're obviously going to keep this hand. We have Lavinia, we have Ancestral Recall, we have Force of Will. So we kind of have everything we want. Lavinia obviously being much better on the play, and also much better when opponent doesn't just drop 3 Moxen and an Urza's Saga. We really need this Ancestral to draw us a Wasteland. Instead, it doesn't, and opponent manages to drop another Urza's Saga. So we brainstorm here because we want to probably get rid of some of these cards. And unfortunately, we're starting to get a little bit bitten by the plateau. If this was a blue source, we would have been able to at least ponder and try and get rid of some of these cards, or at least get a shuffle. Instead, opponent's just going to make 1,000,000 tokens, and our Shattering Spree's going to be too late. Opponent's got a third Urza's Saga, so basically this game we just get run over by Urza's Saga. Whoops, so we now actually need to, so we've pondered, we found a land, and now we actually need a Shattering Spree to avoid lethal. So this is one of those times where Dress Down's a really nice card, but even then I think like the number of Dress Downs we would have needed to draw here is really through the roof. Especially because opponent just keeps... They drew all 4 Sagas, which is a pretty wild draw and would normally... Yeah, I guess if you get all 4, it's always going to be good, right? So we're going to Time Walk here, and Preordain. Third Path Iconoclast means we might be able to do something. So Pearl's a good draw. We really needed to draw something like, if we drew Lotus, I think, for turn, so we could snap off the dig. That might have helped us turn the corner, or at least put us in a position where we could have tried to stonewall the constructs for long enough to, I guess, find like an Arcanist. And so we block all these guys. We then go to dig in our turn. And opponent's got the Force of Will, and unfortunately that means this game's over. So obviously our biggest issue this entire match was, well, apart from getting run over by Urza's Saga, it was not misstepping the Manifold Key in game 1. So lesson learned, always misstep the Manifold Key.